Amy, and I'm a parent.
And I'm Glenn, and I do research on video games. Welcome to the first ever episode of Great Games, Better Brains.
Where Glenn's going to tell us about different research and studies that have been done on kids' brains and the productivity and the effects that video games have had on children.
We're really going to talk about how to use games both in school and at home. And we're really concerned, as a parent, you've got questions about which games are right for kids and which games are right for certain age kids and how I can use them to help kids learn better in school. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to just talk about math games and science games, problem-solving games, all kinds of other kinds of tools that are going to help you work with your kids as they play video games.
Because you hear in the media that kids shouldn't be playing video games and they're bad for kids. And what are your thoughts on
I hear that a lot. I get a lot of parents who ask the same thing. They say, well, Glenn, I've heard that games are bad for kids. And I ask them a question. I said, so what happens if, for example, your kid comes home from school, goes up to the bookshelf, pulls a book off of the shelf and just reads for 4 or 5 hours without a break? Would that kind of concern you?
Yeah, I think it would concern me a little bit.
Yeah, reading's good, but 4 or 5 hours at a time. It's all about moderation, and games are kind of the same way. We would ask questions about who the author is, what's the content of the book. There might even be books we don't want our kids to read, and again, it's the same thing with games. We want kids to play games, we want kids to interact with those kinds of things, but we want to ask good questions and be involved in that kind of stuff. So that's what we're talking about, is how we can use games to ask good questions. And find ratings for games and which games are going to work, and it's just a matter of staying involved.
It sounds like a great idea. As a parent, what are the primary factors you look for?
Well, there's a lot of things, and there's a lot of research actually, and we're going to talk about some of the research later in a couple of the other episodes, but I'm really excited about two books that have come out in the last couple of years. One is by a guy named Mark Prinsky, and he wrote a book called Don't Bother Me Mom, I'm Learning, and the actual book is just really designed for parents and teachers. Exactly the things we're talking about. What games should my kids play? Should I be concerned? How long should they play? So that's one that I think parents should really get involved in and check out, is Don't Bother Me Mom, I'm Learning by Mark Prinsky. Another book came out just last year, and it's called Grand Theft Childhood, the secret truth about video games. And the secret truth turns out to be there's really no connection between video games and violence. You always hear that's one of the big things that parents are concerned about, right? I mean, I'm sure that's something that you guys think about. And I'm a parent too, and I've got kids, so it's a concern. And that particular book is really useful for me because it went through the research and said, we can't find any connection between video games and violence. And it helped me. These two guys, the people who wrote the book, it's actually a married couple from MIT. You know, so they're parents, they're researchers, they're scientists, and they did their research and put it together, and as a parent I love that. And as a researcher who knows that video games can be really engaging, it was helpful to have that kind of foundation to say, no, games are good for kids and don't be afraid of them, just use them appropriately.
Right, in moderation?
Yeah, sure.
Are there any games in particular?
Yeah, there's a couple games that I think I'm going to suggest. We're going to talk about Wii games the next episode, which is really cool. I mean, if you got a Wii, you just got to play it, right? We'll talk about some of those games. One of those is called Big Brain Academy. And Big Brain Academy is a Wii game that is really designed for kids, maybe grades kindergarten up to 4th or 5th grade, but I got a 16-year-old. And we play it just to compete because the whole idea of this game is to make your brain as big as possible in the game, and you're doing all these different activities, and there's 20 or 30 different kinds of mini games that you can play. And the idea behind these mini games is to help nurture different parts, literally different parts of your actual brain. That problem solving, visual cues, number sense, all kinds of things that are good for kids, but as kids are playing this game, they don't know what that looks. They just see their brain getting bigger in the game.
When you say number sense, what does that mean from the parent perspective?
We're talking about math. You know, how do I add and subtract? How do numbers interact with each other? And how can I, as a kid, as a person, use numbers in productive ways? And the game helps me through these little mini games, helps me figure that kind of stuff out. So Big Brains Academy, it's on the Wii, it's also on the little handheld DSs that you can get. So you've got a couple different platforms. That's K5. Another game that's good for older kids is a game called Age of Empires. It's designed more for a Windows platform or a PC platform. But as a former teacher and as a history teacher, I love this game because what you do is from a godlike perspective almost, where you can see the entire board and all the people and all the stuff and all the land and all the maps and all the different things that you can move around. From that perspective, you literally start a civilization from scratch, and it grows until you are from a village to an actual country, an actual nation, an actual civilization. And there's about 10 or 15 different versions of that game. It's been around about 12 years. So you've got Age of Rome, you've got the Middle Ages, you've got mythology, so we can do Greeks and Roman gods. There's all kinds of stuff in that particular game. And the fact that you're controlling so much stuff, there's a huge connection in your head between the different elements, economics and political problems and military problems, and it's just, you got to combine all that stuff together. And so not really good for 6 years or younger, 10 years or younger, but middle school and high school kids, it's perfect because they're forced to solve lots and lots of problems. And they actually do a pretty good job of bringing in some historical accuracy. It's not obviously a textbook, but there's some really nice connection between what's going to happen in school and the games that they're playing. So those are two games, Big Brain Academy for younger kids and Age of Empires for older kids.
That sounds great. Well, that gives me at least 2 games that I can introduce and have conversation with my kids to start out with. So
when we come back next time on Great Games, Better Brains, what we're going to talk about is Wii games, specifically some different kinds of Wii games, and we'll talk about parental controls on the Wii console. We've had lots of parents ask about, well, it's a great game console, but how do I control what my kids do on it? And the Wii has some really nice parental controls, and we're literally will walk you through that and show you how to do that. So see you next time on Great Games, Better Brains.